Hey folks, welcome into the Red Earth Production Studios for another YBMcast with Matt and Brian, and we're opening the show a little bit different because Matt will be joining me here in just a few minutes, along with our good friend from PBR, Missouri, Kevin Mulder. But we want to start off the show today because we're getting ready for the state playoffs, and we have a special guest, Lance Kettering from the Springfield Sports Commission. And these guys, they put on the state playoffs down there for baseball. And you guys have been, Lance, welcome into the show. I'm going to do that first. Welcome in.
Absolutely. Great to be here today.
You guys have been doing a lot of state functions like that for Misha for quite some time, correct?
Yes. That's part of our role here at the Sports Commission is to bring quality sporting events to our communities, increase that economic impact through sports travel and tourism, and we're blessed to have a whole host of Misha State Championships that we've been fortunate to bring to our area.
So tell us a little bit about the Springfield Sports Commission.
Yeah, we're founded in 1999, a nonprofit organization. Our mission is like I said, to bring quality sporting events to our community. A lot of times those are youth and amateur sporting events. But we really hang our hat on bringing those events in that bring a lot of people to your community, of course, in a pre-COVID era. But certainly now we're getting back to normal, and that's still our goal, bringing in those quality events, whether it's from a national governing body or a youth organization, or in the case of what we're talking about today, quality state championships to Springfield.
So how long have you had that relationship with Misha? What's, how did you get involved and what's the mechanism that makes all that work?
Yeah, well, I started in this role in March of 2010, and one of my first goals, when I took this position, was to get as many state championships as we could get into Springfield, and we've done a really good job of that. A lot of that's laying the groundwork and bidding on the events. You have to bid on them and work with your venues and your facilities and your hotels and your whole community, essentially. To embrace their events and put forward a really strong bid so that they will look at your community or move their event from another community to yours.
So that logistically and what you're talking about there, is how many, what is the economic impact and how many people are you usually bringing into an event like this?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. It's a tough one to answer without a real big study, but in rough numbers, we figure an out-of-town guest or participant in an event will spend $150 per day per person. So you kind of, you just have to multiply it times the number of participants and spectators times the number of days you think they'll be in your community. And then you come up with a number, and then you take that times your tax rate, and you kind of can figure out what that will bring in hotel tax and so on and so forth.
So how many hotels gets involved in this, and does the community really work with you? Are you having a lot of success with that?
Yeah, we've got 60 plus hotels here in Springfield for 6,000 rooms, so that's a strength in our community when we bid on events. We've got a really strong lodging community that sees the benefit of sports travel and tourism, so events like state baseball, state basketball, they jump on board. They want to be involved, be active, and whether that's through sponsorship and dollars or partnerships and various in-kind things, they do a nice job of helping us. And that is, something that helps us win these events.
And, there's a Hall of Fame in Springfield too, isn't there? There's a Sports Hall of Fame there. And so tell us a little bit about that, because people can visit that in the off time, right? Check out the Sports Hall of Fame there in Springfield.
Yeah, we got a great Sports Hall of Fame. It's certainly one of the best in the country, if not the best. It's run by a fellow named Gerald Andrews. He's been there 26 years plus, does a fantastic job. They do a lot of programming throughout the year, throughout the state, actually. But it is based here in Springfield. They also put on a Corn Ferry Golf Tour event that's been in Springfield 20 plus years. It used to be the web.com and Ben Hogan Tour, Nike Tour, whatever it's been called, but they've been doing that, and it's been the same spot on their tournament schedule for 25 plus years. So it is a great thing for folks to go and check out when they're in town as well.
Absolutely. So you guys are going to be hosting at the U.S. Baseball Park down in Ozark, correct? Tell us a little bit about that facility.
Yeah, it was built actually in the late 1990s. It was a Texas-Louisiana League back at the time, independent Frontier. Then it went to the Frontier League. Used to be the home of the Ozark Mountain Ducks. Then became the Springfield Ozark Mountain Ducks. And actually, Missouri State played there from 1999 till they opened the new stadium here in Springfield, Hammons Field. So Missouri State played there from 1999 to 2003. That was the home field of Missouri State's College World Series team. Featured there was 8 draft picks on that team. Ryan Howard, he played all his college baseball games with the exception of a season at U.S. Baseball Park. Brad Ziegler, former major leaguer, was on that 2003 World Series team. So it's got some good history. Then when the Hammons Field came to be, it kind of was the end of an era, if I'll call it, at U.S. Baseball Park. Ended that, and then a group out of Oklahoma came in about 6-7 years ago and totally refurbished the place with turf throughout the facility, a video board, and just put it back to life, if you will. And a gentleman named Mark Stratton, former Drury University baseball coach, is the general manager of the facility. And for those of you that know Mark, great fella. He is a baseball guy, if there ever was one, and does a great job there. And certainly when Mark was at Drury University, was when Metter Park in Springfield, a park board facility, hosted the state championships for baseball. So when they left Metter Park to go to O'Fallon up there at Carshield, prior to being in Carshield, Mark was helping with the operations of the facility when it was at Metter Park. So kind of a reunion, if you will, too.
Absolutely. We got some great baseball coming up. State playoffs are going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to hopefully we'll get down to your neck of the woods for a couple of those games. And hey, Lance, thanks for coming on. We appreciate your time and talking to us a little bit. Folks, if you're looking for some great baseball, the Springfield Sports Commission has got a great week planned there with high school baseball, the state playoffs going on. Check it out. It's May 31st through June 5th, correct?
That's correct.
So looking forward to it. U.S. Ballpark down in Ozark, Springfield Sports Commission. Lance, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, and hope to see your listeners and down in Springfield, Ozark for the event. We'll see you there.
All righty.
Kevin, so we started to get state tournament bracket play. And just curious on, before we dive into specific teams, specific matchups, just what your overall thoughts are so far with the tournament in general.
Well, it's been, as we predicted, it's been exciting. There's been some good upsets, and there's been a lot of really, really good baseball and high-stakes baseball, and it's...
Dang, he's freezing.
So every game you go out there, it's a fun, exciting game, and a lot of energy. So it has been entertaining.
Yeah, and energy is the big thing, because kudos to the fans, because there's a lot of people coming out to watch these games.
Yes,
which is great. Like Francis Howell's been loaded. You were were you in Springfield? Or
every game I've been to has been packed. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I was out at St. Clair versus Springfield Catholic in St. Clair, and it had a nice crowd out in St. Clair, and they have a cool little setup there. And yeah, great game. And then been over at Vianney and hosting the Limburg one. That was been packed. Out at Francis Howell's been buzzing. It's been. The CBC game was packed, so there's been some energy. It's been fun. I haven't been to events with people.
And I got out Tuesday to St. Charles playing Macon, St. Charles West.
Yeah.
And that place was packed. Macon traveled very well because they're up in the middle part of the state up there, and it's not just a short drive, but they traveled well. The place was packed. It was a lot of fun, good energy. Ray Rico, that kid pitched a really good game. It was a lot of fun, man. It was really enjoyable. So I'm hoping to get out. I'm going to head to Howell and watch West and Howell. I think that's going to be a really fun game. I'd love to. That game, Kennett and Priory. That's here in St. Louis, isn't it?
I'd have to double check. I honestly think it's in Kennett.
Okay.
The Class 4.
I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I mean Class 4. I guess starting there. St. Charles West, Blair Oaks. They play today. Springfield Catholic, Hollister play today. The game you just mentioned in Lafayette, St. Joseph, and Summit Christian Academy. The St. Charles West Blair Oaks game. St. Charles West is going to throw Josh Newell.
Yep.
Do you know who threw game 1 for Blair Oaks? I don't know who threw game 1, but they've got a couple good arms.
They got Will Lippert, who's one of the best sophomores in the state in that 2023 class, a lefty that's getting some heavy interest from some big hitters in college baseball. Blair Oaks is a handful. They're really good, and I know St. Charles West had a good year. And are they going to throw Newell? I assume.
I would think
he's had a very big year. So that'll be a fun matchup.
What do you think of Hollister? I mean, Springfield Catholic, we've talked about them throughout most of the season. Is Hollister, are they in that game?
They'll have a chance. They were in the small school rankings for most of the year. They kind of fell out towards the end. Springfield Catholic, along with Kennett, is what I would call, in that heavyweight class of small schools that could probably play with the large schools. But it's a baseball. It's a one game winner take all. Hollister's not going to be scared. They're both from the same area. So that's a rivalry game and should be a good game. Springfield Catholic is extremely talented. I will say that they got guys that are moving on to high level, college baseball spots. It'll be, that'll be a tough one, but anything can happen, as we've seen over the past 10 days or so.
Yeah.
Well, I think the winner of West Blair Oaks, Springfield Catholic, Hollister. So you could have the matchup in the first. But the Final Four matchup could be the number 1 and number 2 teams in small schools. And if one of those two teams gets upset, like St. Charles West has a legit arm to throw that first game. Actually, they have 2 good arms. So either way, you're getting down to Final 8. Then you're going to be down to the Final Four. So the cream of the crop pretty much at this point are rising. Or the teams that are actually playing the best baseball at the moment, hence the Smet last year. Or 2019, sorry.
Yeah. You got to get on a roll or you swing the bats well as your arm's thrown. I mean, if your pitcher has a bad day, you could be in trouble. That's just as simple as it gets.
Unless you can get them out early.
Exactly. Let's head over to Class 5. Had some really good games. I'm surprised that Westminster Christian Academy did not get in here. And they lost early into that district to Parkway Central. And here you have Parkway Central coming out of that district, which I didn't think that was. I saw them play against East. I saw Parkway Central against East, and they were good, but I was really surprised about that.
They got hot. I was actually at their first game of districts when they played Ladue, and I believe they won that game 11-0. Joe Ciervo had just a monster day and kind of led the charge, and then they just got hot and kept rolling. But to your point, Matt kind of brought it up a couple minutes ago. That was give or take a 500 ball club throughout the regular season, and now they're hot as can be and playing really well, kind of found themselves, and they're one win away from getting a chance to go to the Final Four in the state tournament.
Yeah, And in all honesty, you look at Class 5 and, you have Green Valley, Willard, a couple, that stand out, a Rockwood Summit. So I think Class 5 is really anybody's ball game here because there's only, you're already down to the final 8. So it's one game to get to the final 4.
And
so you're not having to, whoever you have, that dude's throwing.
I was talking to his friend of the show, Lance Kettering down in Springfield. His son it's the Midwest Mavericks baseball club, and his son he's a sophomore he's a starting shortstop for Glendale. And I kind of follow along that, and he was kind of worried, he's like, well, we got Webb City, we'll see. And sure enough, man, again, it's what we're talking about. They beat Webb City 2-0. Their kids threw a shutout, and I didn't see that coming. I don't know if you did or not, Kevin.
No. If you're in the prediction business, you're going to be out of business quick because Webb City, they just got into the large school rankings. They were having a big year. We've seen them play Francis Howell extremely tough. That's a quality team, but so is Glendale. And obviously, like Matt said, you get one hot pitcher, one guy throws a good game, your guy has one bad inning, and boom, that's it.
And that's kind of where it's at. So you got Glendale and Willard, which is a good matchup right there in that quarter. Parkway Central for Zumwalt South. Zumwalt South is getting hot. Every time I've seen them, I was telling Matt before we started talking, every time I've seen South, they swing the bats well. No matter who they're playing, they're putting the ball in play. They generate runs. They put pressure on the defense.
They've had a pretty consistent good year. They've proven to be a pretty quality ball club throughout the entire year. So they're going to be a handful in that game there. They've kind of proven themselves, and it'll be fun to see how the final week here goes with them.
Class 6.
Well, hang on, because I think the two big ones we've talked a little bit about through the season, but they're kind of sitting there because they're not in this area. But it's Green Valley and Smithville, right? That matchup right there. You've had them in the top through most of the season, correct?
Yeah, Green Valley, I've seen them opening weekend over at Creekside Complex in a Kansas City, like the elite Kansas City teams played early in the season. They were good. They were, to be honest, a team that I didn't know a ton about until I got to see them, and they're a strong team. In Smithville, at one point, won 19 games in a row this year. So that's going to be a battle right there. That'll be a fun one. And then, the Rockwood Summit Festus game, Rockwood Summit kind of dethroned maybe the favorites in 5A in Parkway West. So and they got a fun team. They're hard nosed. They got a good group, kind of led Jack Myers, a heck of a player for them. And they got the Festus Ball Club, so that'll be a fun matchup there as well.
There you go. 5A is going to be a fun one. There's a lot of good stuff, some upsets to get these guys into these quarterfinals. As you said, we talked about Westminster, but like you said, Parkway West. They'd lost 3 ball games all year.
Yeah,
had been playing very well. So there you go.
Anybody can beat anybody.
So now, let's move to the big boys, right? It is Class 6.
You got some heavy hitters. Class 6, you're looking at, I think the big matchup, at least for us, is Zumwalt West and Francis Howell. Two teams that have been top 10, top 5, and obviously the team that's really been number 1 all season in Zumwalt West. They're deep, and I think the question is, for West, I think, what do you think? Hargraves will probably throw?
Or is it
I've Tanner Perry's pitching?
Yeah.
Or is Tanner Perry throwing?
Tanner Perry. Yep.
Now, I mean, here's your plus is you don't play for 5-6 days. So I'm assuming the whole gauntlet's getting thrown. Somebody gets in trouble, or hey, you're struggling early. It's bullpen go. They're all game sevens. I mean, literally, they're all game sevens.
Well, and to your point, look at that, Matt. I think that's the idea. This is May 29th, right? This is Saturday. You don't play again until June 4th.
Right, the following.
You've got all your arms rested for June 4th.
Friday, right.
Right. So I don't see how you don't, you could throw, if somebody's in trouble, you don't have to sit there on that kid worrying about tomorrow or, Monday.
The interesting thing is you kind of needed your depth to get through districts. Depth isn't really an issue in the quarterfinal game. It's really who's going to have that elite performer that steps up, because it's a one-game deal. You don't have to turn around and win a game the next day or like 2 days later. So everyone's going to be rested and ready to go from a pitch count rule standpoint, and there's nothing to worry about on the backside. So it's, if you got an elite guy, that's where this is going to really pay off right here. You're going to see everyone's best and maybe one reliever, and that should be it. And Zumwalt West and Howell, we talked about what kind of separates them from others is their depth is insane. They were quality pitchers, but in this situation, those guys are going to, whoever team they're number one, we should see them, and it's going to kind of fall on their shoulders, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they've played each other 3 times. West has won 2 of 3. The one time that Howell beat West was right after the Columbia tournament when they had a game set up against Howell, and they had
I saw
5
that game.
games in
it was
2 or 3 days. So
right.
It was a tough game too, and West had a chance to win.
But they beat Howell, and then it was the next day that they lost. So it was the back end of a very long week. I'm not saying that.
I'm going to say
no knock to Howell. It's going to be a good game.
Championship game to me.
Yes.
And there's all 8 of these teams could win it theoretically, but this really pops out at you.
Well, these 2 teams for one that are 2 of the top teams in the state. They're in each other's backyard. They've already played each other. They know each other well. You can do all the scouting you want through districts, blah, blah, blah. You've played somebody 3 times. You know what they are. And these kids know each other. A lot of the kids play against each other in the summer or with each other in the summer. This is going to be a feisty game. I mean, there's going to be, this is you're playing against your buddy, and there's going to be some trash talking. I'm sure it's going to get rowdy in the crowd, and it's going to be a fun atmosphere, which is great.
Well, the collegiate baseball top 30 has Zumwalt West ranked 21st in the nation right now. So I think that says it all for them. They're 33-4. They've got the depth to do it. I think they're the favorites for the state championship. We'll see what Hal brings. Coach Perkins is always going to be ready. So, boom, that's done.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. I think the other game that's going to be fun, that's the kind of the St. Louis local game, is Lindbergh CBC, because I think that game's getting overlooked by the Howell Zumwalt West game, which I think is still going to be another good game. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, that game's interesting because both those teams, Lindbergh and CBC, have kind of had interesting years. Like Howell and Zumwalt West, what you appreciate about them is they've been consistent throughout the year, and but veteran teams. Lindbergh started off with a lot of hype around them. I think I had them preseason number 4 or 5, something like that, and they did good to start off, and then they went in the tank for about 2 weeks where they really struggled. But then they came alive that last couple of weeks of the season and started playing back to form and kind of who I think they really are. and shot through that a very good district. And then CBC, you get in trouble saying they might be the most talented team in the state in terms of like who's going to actually move on, play college baseball, play professional baseball. Not one kid. I'm talking the whole roster. So that one's going to be an interesting matchup. Both have, Lindbergh has a little more senior heavy depth, but both have really good young players. It'll be interesting to see who Lindbergh throws. They have a sophomore Mizzou commit, Dane Bjorn, who is an elite type arm, and then CBC is loaded with sophomores. So that, and they also have some good, they have good junior, good senior. They're just a talented group. So that's going to be a really interesting game for sure.
But I think that's where I think CBC has got into trouble a little bit throughout the season. I think they're young. I don't know if they've been in some of these situations. We'll see as the days goes on. They walked off against DeSmet, and so do they have enough experience to make that next step just yet with these young kids? I know they have the talent.
And the thing about it is they are young. But now, if you're the coach, you're sitting there. All right, boys, you guys, your sophomore year's over. We're done with school. You're juniors now, so I expect you and need you to play like that. And a lot of times, those young teams, they hear how good they are. They hear how good they are. They get knocked in the mouth. They learn a little bit, and then they start being, figuring some things out. So that will be the case. It will be interesting to see. If some of those young guys take that next step, and because talent, they're not short on talent. I can assure you.
Well, they just got to get out of the mindset of we are 2023s. We have 2 more years left to do this. If we lose, we can do it again. And that comes down to the coach preaching, you may never be back at this point.
Right.
Yep. It's not as easy to get here as you think.
And their coach has won a state championship before and has been in these ball games. So it's, as has Lindbergh. They've been to the Final Four. So these guys know what they're doing for sure. And that's going to be a heavyweight bout as well, for sure.
So we've talked about the St. Louis, and we're not trying to be, St. Louis heavy or whatnot or anything like that. But, okay, we know what Lindbergh's got. We know what CBC's got. We know Francis Howell's Elmont West. And honestly, to be, I think, honest, even though I haven't seen much, we've talked about it all year. You've seen quite a bit of these teams. We've talked about Ray Peck. We've talked about Liberty. We've talked about Jeff City, and you've seen Jeff City. Have you seen Republic play, Kevin?
I have not. They were not the favorite in that district. That was Kickapoo. I was talking about this with the Springfield Catholic fans, and I was like, hey, were you guys shocked to see Kickapoo not come out? And they were all, yes, we were surprised. Kickapoo is a heavy favorite down there. They're, legitimately a top 10 team in the state, and they didn't come out. And Republic is a good team. I have not seen them play, though, to be honest. I have seen the Jeff City Ball Club play, and they are a deep veteran team and have a really good group. So that'll be a one to keep an eye on, but one that I know a little less about because the Republic team, it looks like they kind of got hot in their district and shot through it.
So if we look at these on those bottom sides of the brackets, do we see any of those 4 teams really pushing these other 4 teams in the top side of those brackets in that championship part?
I would say definitely yes.
Okay.
Liberty, and we talked about that possibly being, I know for my money, and I think Matt agreed with this, was it District 8 or 7 over there in Kansas City as being the toughest district in the state? Well, Liberty, I believe, was the 3 seed. And they were also in my top 10 rankings. And you had 3 or 4 teams in the top 10 in that same district. And they came out of it. They are extremely talented. They've been through the fire. They've been tested. That is a strong, strong ball club, and they'll have as good a chance as anyone to win state. Now, I'm not saying that they should
I understand.
be on favorite, but they can absolutely win the state. And in fact, you can make an argument maybe they should be the favorite based on Howland Zumwalt West that we talked about. That's a state championship. That's a terrible draw for either one of those teams. So and I'm not taking away from Ray-Pec. They're a really good team. They have a sophomore committed to LSU. They got some big time arms. So anytime you have a sophomore on your team going to LSU and he's a pitcher, you're going to have a chance to win.
And Liberty has Carson Milbrandt, righty, 22, going to Mizzou.
Yep.
So
their shortstop's a sophomore Texas A&M commit. They're deep. They're not short on talent.
So that kid you just talked about, that a pitcher going to Mizzou there? Is that what you?
Yeah.
So he's probably going to be on the mound, right, on Saturday, I would imagine.
Yes.
I would be shocked if he's not.
Right.
Yeah. So you're going to see that kid. And so where does this stand at the top there? You got Lindbergh probably and Liberty coming there. I don't know. CBC, I know I'm hanging with Lindbergh because I've kind of rode them all the way through. And so I'm not going to change that now. They're there, right?
They're there.
So Lindbergh is, I do think Lindbergh will beat CBC. I think that they're a little heavier as far as that experience. That's just, something we'll see if talent prevails. But it's going to be an interesting. I'd say you're going to see Lindbergh and Liberty in that next next Friday.
I mean, you can ride if you're Liberty. I mean, if Carson Milbrandt's throwing well, I mean, you can ride him to the finals, and then that's when somebody else steps up and wins you a game. But that's the way it's set up right now. Yeah.
Don't be fooled. They're extremely talented. They got dudes on that team. Arguably the best catcher in the state. Defensively, Shea McGahan. Now there's Carter Jensen, who's going to be the most likely the top high school draft pick in the state, who's also a catcher. So that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but Shea's right there. He's an SEC. He's heading to Mizzou. And they are a deep team. So it's not like anyone saying Lindbergh's not talented. They're extremely talented.
Well, yeah, but your point is depth gets you to this point, right? You just get through districts. You got to win, 3 games. Some of them you got to win 2. But you get to this point, and you got a horse. The horse can ride you to the finals. Like if you look at past teams. Let's take DeSmet in 2019. I mean, you have a setup the way it's set up right now where it's 1 game, 5-6 days off. That guy is coming back to throw your semifinal game. And it's been this way as long as I can remember because you look back at a lot of the teams that have won state over the years, most of them have a guy, a dude that they rode once they got out of districts.
What's the pitch count, Kevin, for Misha?
I believe it's 105 pitches, right?
I think so.
You can't start a new batter once you've exceeded 105, I believe is the rule.
So if you're in the middle of an at-bat and you go to 108, you can't start the next guy. You got to come out, correct?
I believe that's the rule. But yeah, that sounds right.
To your point, it was interesting because Ray Rico's pitching. He pitched a complete game. And I hear Coach Allen, he's hollering at the gal that's keeping the pitch count. He hit 105 with that last batter, and popped him up. I think it was, and he hit 105, and that was the game. So
yeah. So had they dropped that ball, he wouldn't have been able to pitch the next batter. Basically,
yes, correct.
So that was pretty, right there. You're like, well, there you go.
Well, and let's give when this thing started, we had Coach Allen, St. Charles West, came on. You had Perkins and Goff. Mm-hmm. Those are 3 schools. Am I missing anybody that are playing right now deep?
No, that was it.
That we had on the show. So, I mean, congratulations to them. In all honesty, we have a little personal connection with those guys because we've spent time with them.
Yeah,
but they were all very unsure, modest, however you want to say it, especially Goff and Perkins about their teams because they knew what they had, but they didn't want to jinx it. I think the one, and not that those 2 weren't honest, but I think Coach Allen didn't really know what he had.
I agree.
He was the one that really didn't know what he had.
Yeah.
And, they're 1 game away from the Final Four. So, I mean, kudos to him. Congrats to him. They've done a great job. And, congrats to Perkins and Goff. They've done a great job as well.
Yep.
And
Coach Hill for Zumwalt East made it to the district title game.
Yes. Yeah, we had him on as well.
And, Coach Clement over at Liberty is the other gentleman we talked to. And I don't think they made it as far. I think they got into the semifinals of the district. I think that's what it was. So, but yeah, man, Coach Goff was the first guy we had. And it was interesting listening to him talk about his pitching staff. He says, he said, I got a lot of guys. That's all he said.
He wasn't lying. He's got a lot of guys.
Well, I'll tell you, class. I'm going to go out there since we're doing this. We started it. I am going to say Lindbergh and Liberty. I mean, nobody's going to argue with that. I mean, other than maybe the guys that want CBC in there, and that's fine. But I'm going to say Lindbergh because I've been riding Lindbergh, and Liberty just because what we've talked about, where they've been all year. And I'm going to say Zumwalt West and Jeff City.
Yeah, you're not really going on a limb here.
Well, it's the teams that are left.
I mean, Howell can win, right? I mean,
Howell can win.
But, I mean, West, I don't know how you go against West at this point. I mean, just what they've done the whole season.
Right.
CBC, I'm curious to see which CBC team shows up because CBC can easily win state.
Right.
They've got so much talent on that team, as Kevin said.
And so can Francis Howell.
Well, obviously, any of them can win state.
Yeah.
But I think, like we discussed, I think the one game outside of Howell and Zumwalt West, the CBC Limber game, I'm curious to see which CBC team shows up. So it's gonna be fun. Either way, it's gonna be exciting.
Your definite outliers are Ray Peck, that they have talent to do it. Republic have talent to do it, but they're we've seen the other teams throughout the season.
Yeah, just a little more unknown.
Yeah, so your chances, and we're not sitting here trying to handicap people. That's not the point. It's just the thought process of what we've been talking about throughout the whole season. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely, and they're all good teams. They're all talented, and it'll be it's going to be a heck of a day on Saturday.
Because you don't get here without being good. I don't care. That's just a fact. So congratulations to all the teams that have made it into this state quarterfinals, made it this far. Hats off to the coaches, to the players. They've put in a lot of work. These kids are working hard, and I think that shows a lot. And like you said, to Coach Allen, I think he's done a great job coaching this year because, like you said, he really didn't know what he had. And he's done a really good job putting that team together, getting them to believe in what they're doing. And we do have a little bit of personal, investment in that because we've talked to him a couple different times on the show. And so I think that's a big hats off to him.
Yeah, they had a ton of people at their game the other day too.
Yeah,
which is great for the school.
It is.
Literally, that place was packed. So.
And we're always talking about the guys up here, Class 6. They get the big pub, whatnot. And in fact, there's an article in St. Louis Post-Dispatch today from a kid that's on Jason Basingham or something. I'm sorry. That I was reading, and it was just a great article on a St. Charles West player and so they're getting some recognition, and I think that's always a great thing.
Yeah. We'll see.
Kevin, you ready for it?
I'm ready. This is what it's all about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, we're going to be down in Springfield. We're going to get a chance to go down, get some. Hopefully, we'll be able to talk players. We're hope to have Kevin on the set talking some baseball down there as we're down. If we can get Matt down there, we will. Maybe we'll phone you in, bro.
Yeah. We'll see.
But we're going to be down talking some baseball at the state finals there. We're looking forward to that. It'll be a lot of fun. We appreciate everybody joining us today and throughout the season, talking about starting to come to that culmination. Remember, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, hit that dinger, because that's what we do around here.
We hit dingers.
I love it. And so everybody have a great day in the Lord. Also, you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and you hitters,
hit them where they ain't.
Good advice.
Thanks, Kevin.
Always.
Thank you. Good luck to everyone. Players.